Okay, so yeah, I'm Lisa Perry. I'm 18. I left school in the summer, and now I'm in the army. I'm in my first step change training, halfway through now, and with the final goal to be in the band of the Household Cavalry. And it was through the Pony Club that I sort of found out about this job role. So Pony Club wise, I've been doing it my whole life. I started as young as I could, went through mini camp, junior camp and senior camp. I've done all sorts of disciplines, mountain games, I've done the eventing teams, and more recently I'm doing more dressage, but doing all sorts of competitions, Winter Pony Club Championships. And will hopefully carry on when I'm out of training, when I have the time to ride my horses. But I heard about this job role through the Pony Club. The Household Cavalry recruit through the Pony Club, so it's a good way to find people who already ride. And they offered open day, and I went to the open day and thought it's a really good job role. And they're paying me to ride ride horses and play music. And from there, so I went through the recruiting process all online. It's taken me about 18 months to get here. It's fitness. And from here, I've got another 6 weeks of basic training. And then I go off to music school, which is between 3 months and 2 years, depending on how long you need to be there for. To get you up to the standard required. And then I go to riding school, which is the final step, which is 12 weeks learning how to ride, or ride the army way. And then I go to London for 4 weeks, which is learning how to polish all your kit and ride in a formation that you see when you're out at Changing the Guard in London and things. And now I join the band. Day to day, you rehearse every day, and you provide musical support to any regiments that need it. So quite often the cavalry are providing musical support to Changing the Guard in Windsor. Then about 10 times a year they go to London and provide mounted music support, which will be the fun bit. But there's other opportunities to ride horses. I'll be able to hopefully go to Olympia with the mounted ride team and go all over the world with mounted ride and trumpet team. So hopefully I'll get there in the future and you'll see me on TV and things. So yeah, that's sort of throughout Pony Club and what the next few years look like for me.
If anyone has any questions, just pop them in the chat. I will start this, Lucy. I'm not sure if you can the chat, but I will ask people to get people started. What sort of instruments are they looking for to be playing? Presumably it's not piano.
Yeah, so there are different types of bands. There's a brass band, and then there's a concert band. So it's brass, woodwind, percussion. Are the main ones, and then there's a string band as well. But if you have to play the instrument to a grade 6 standard to get in, but they sort of, if you play piano to a high standard as well, there are separate ways, like there are different bands within the bands that aren't ceremonial but are sort of perform as a civilian band, so you have the opportunity to play whatever instrument you play.
Can you see the other questions appearing there?
I can. Right, so if I go, is it what I expected it to be? Basic training, I think I had sort of, it's not as quite as I expected it to be. I had a good idea of what I was going to do. There's a lot more lessons than I thought it would be. It's sort of a lot less practical. And so yeah, it's sort of similar to what I thought it would be, but so some bits are more interesting than I thought it would be, and some bits aren't. I'm enjoying things that I expected not to enjoy. And if I go the Army way of riding, I'm not sure of it yet. I've got 12 weeks to learn it. But I think it's quite similar, but there are sort of different ways. We also get taught to fall off. They expect in the 12 weeks for you to fall off pretty much every day, I think, to get used to. So you've got 12 weeks for everyone to learn how to ride and get to a good standard. And so I think that's pretty full on. And that sort of leads on to what level of riding do they expect? They don't expect you to be able to ride at all. It's starting from day one. If you've ridden before, if you haven't ridden before, everyone starts at the same pace. And they'll teach you from the beginning. I think they almost quite like you to not be, obviously everyone here rides really, they quite like people that don't know how to ride, because they've got to teach us first, but they just teach the others. So you don't have to worry about whatever riding you do. And has it always been your aim to get to the place you are now? When I didn't know about this job role until it came out through the Pony Club, and before I thought I was going to go to uni and become a physio and go down a completely different career role. But as soon as I heard it was this, and I could do what I'm doing, I sort of saw that as to be the job role made for me, to just be able to play music and ride horses all day. What's the hardest thing so far? The physical training, I think, has to be the hardest thing I've done. They don't mind what level of fitness you have. They just expect you to be putting your full effort in every time. And so even if you're at the back of the group and you're still putting effort in, they're happy. And so it's quite challenging to sort of push your mental limits as well, because it's your brain that stops what your body does. The easiest, it's probably been, there's not been anything here that I've breezed through. Everything is challenging. But sort of the classroom lessons quite easy, and the testing we get on that is quite simple stuff. So the theory side is quite easy. And having been done CCF and cadets and things at school, the drill side of things has not been as challenging for other people. And is it hard to get onto the mounted ride? I'm not sure of the process to get onto the mounted ride, but most people try and do it in their first few years in the band. And there are different job roles you can do in the mounted ride that quite often there's the people doing the mounted ride, there's also the band support with the drums and the trumpets. And so that's easier to get onto than the mounted ride, but I hope I'll be able to get to Olympia and things in the next few years. What are the different instruments in the brass group? So in the concert band, there's quite a range. So you've got your trumpets, horns, euphonium, tuba, trombone, the normal ones, but then in the small specific groups, if you split down into smaller bands, like there are brass ensembles and brass quintets, you'll get the slightly more uncommon brass instruments, like the bass trumpet and things. So sort of any brass instrument you play, you'll be able to perform. But if you go in playing one of these uncommon brass instruments, they'll transfer you to the closest one that you'll play every day. And then what instrument do I play? I play the trumpet. I have done for the last 8 years. And I've been playing military music throughout school, but I've never tried on a horse, and I don't think mine would particularly appreciate it, so I think that's going to be interesting. And you have the opportunity to learn multiple instruments, but I think I'm just going to stick with the trumpet. Will I always ride the same horse? No. You find out what horse you're going to ride the afternoon before the parade, and you'll spend the afternoon grooming it and cleaning its tack, which takes at least 5 hours. But if that horse goes lame overnight or cuts itself, you'll get changed. You could get a horse change on the morning of the parade, and so it could change last minute, and they're not always well behaved, and they'll put the best behaved horses for the band, so they're sort of better with instruments, but you still have the horses that aren't very good with it, so you've got quite a challenging ride, and they expect you to keep that horse in line, whatever it's doing, which sometimes will get interesting. Where am I based? I'm currently at Winchester, and there's a just phase 1 training establishment, and then I'll move to either London or Portsmouth for music school. They're currently they're moving the School of Music down to Portsmouth, and they're currently in the transition, so I'm unsure yet, but I'll find out in the next couple of weeks. And then riding school will be in Windsor with 4 weeks in London, and then I'll be based in Windsor full time, which is sort of one of the nicest places that I could be, as I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And the band involves in the big parades. Yeah, so the band are sort of very necessary to the biggest parades, because otherwise they're just a bit boring. So I'll be doing, or the band will do, changing the guard in Windsor on the day-to-day, but they'll also be doing Trooping the Colour and the biggest parades in the country. And because they're the only mounted band, they're quite busy, because everyone enjoys watching it so much. But there, you'll only sort of get to do the mounted bit sort of 10 times a year on average. So it's just sort of quite, it's a very versatile job that you'll be doing small things one day and then the biggest things on the other. And how do they train the horses? Generally, I'm not too sure about what the riding instructors do with the horses, but they start by just not riding on the parade, but following the parade behind with the riding instructors. So they get to see what happens and get used to the noise and being still in London. And then they'll get gradually moved into the ranks with them. And then from there, generally the calmest horses will move over to the band when they're needed. But some horses just aren't good with it, and they then won't be picked as a band horse, and they'll stay with the rest of the cavalry horses. But it's generally just getting them used to it, starting them from a distance and moving them closer. And quite often they put cotton wool in their ears as well, so it's not so loud. And then what's my horse called? So my horse is called Sky. I've had her for 5 years now. We've had our ups and downs. But Mum's also got a horse that I ride, and I ride a couple of other horses and ride sort of whatever horses, if I get the opportunity to ride them, I'll take the opportunity. I don't mind. Leading on to the next question, am I ever scared to ride a horse? But I sometimes get intimidated on the ground if they're quite bulshy and things, but after a while I get used to them. But I haven't really been scared to ride a horse. I think I've been quite lucky that I haven't had any major instances that have led me to be scared of horses, so I'll get on anything really. Then what am I most looking forward to? I think I'm looking forward to, hopefully, if I get onto it, the mounted ride team. Because I've been to Olympia, go to Olympia most years, and it's sort of a dream to be riding at Olympia. And I think it's going to be such a good opportunity, and to be able to travel with it as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then what about the COVID rules? So we get testing on the day we arrive and the week after, but then we still have to maintain sort of all the distancing. We have to follow government rules on travelling, and sort of all our exercise has to be done outside. And then Winchester are very good at managing it. They haven't had an outbreak, they've just had some individual cases, and they're quite strict on sort of distancing, going in each other's rooms, and things. And as soon as you show symptoms, the whole block are in isolation for 2 weeks, and then your training gets done in your rooms, but you also get pushed back a couple of weeks in your training. And will I have to learn to play one-handed? So most people think that everyone gets foot reins, so reins attached to a stirrup. It's only the drummers that get foot reins, and the rest of the band. If you can play your instrument one-handed, you'll play your instrument one-handed with one hand with the horse. Otherwise, you have to have an elastic band around this part of your arm, and you play your instrument, and then use your body and what you can with your arm controlling the horse. They expect you to keep the horse on parade more than playing the instrument. So if you're struggling to keep the horse in, you have to stop playing the instrument until you get the horse back in line, and you can play on. And they're all the same colour. They're known as the Cavalry Blacks, and in the past they've all been very strict about sort of making sure they're all completely black. Their hooves have no white on there, no different coloured, no socks, so they'll colour the socks. But sort of more recently, they're learning to embrace sort of the differences in the horses, and they'll make them stand out as much as possible. So the socks and things have to be immaculately white, shining white. The stars have to be shining white. But they're all black horses. They're the one style of horse. And then there are the 5 or so grey horses that are used for the trumpeters, and they're only used in the band. And then the rest of the year they're competition horses, which is why quite often you see the trumpeters struggling the most, because their horses aren't used to it as everyone else's. But they are either black or grey horses. What place am I most looking forward to going to? I haven't really got a place I'm sort of on the top of my list going to. I'd love to just go around performing around the world, and being able to play army sports, going on tours around the world, because army sports is getting bigger and bigger. But specifically sort of hockey and rugby and the big sports, and so I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. Is my trumpet attached to me? No, it's not. You get issued army ones, so it's not your own that you're worrying about. But no, you've got to keep hold of it, and you get billed if you drop it, and it can't be repaired. So it's in your best interest to keep it in one piece, and you sort of use your training. If you fall off, you protect it in a similar way that we're being taught to protect our weapons here. You put your body on the line rather than your weapon or your instrument. How old is Sky? What colour is she? So she's like 15 now, but unsure of exactly what age she is. She's bay, sort of an Irish type. We don't know what she is. Don't know her full breeding history. She's a 15-1 small horse and does just a bit of everything. What has been my worst fall? I think 8 years ago, I got my leg caught on a gate post while riding, and my pony pulled forward and twisted, and broke my leg and dislocated my knee. And so I think that's got to be my worst. But I've been quite lucky that I've only had a couple of bad ones, and then the rest have been just get up, get back on. Is there a possibility to get to see action? No, although I'm being trained to be a soldier, and it's the soldier first and then the musician, I will be completely ceremonial. And if I would be needed out on tours and things, I'd have to have so much more training. But everyone, in whatever role you do, you have to pass annual physical tests, annual weapon handling tests. And so at any point, if I am abroad, out providing music or entertainment to anyone on tour, if there was an attack, I would have to join in and fight. But it would only be in defence rather than an attack. And so it's pretty much entirely ceremonial, which is what I was worried about, and sort of one of my worries before I found out it was entirely ceremonial. Because you think I'm joining as a soldier, but actually people in the band are pretty much civilian, but have this military, we wear the uniform and we've had this training. Have others come through Pony Club? No, I don't know. There were others from Old Barks that came with me on the open day, but I don't think they've joined. There are people that I went to school with that are wanting to join, and they've been in Pony Club, but they've found out through me and through the school and things. But there are other people that ride down in my platoon, but they haven't heard about this through Pony Club. What's my riding dream? I keep saying it, but riding at Olympia would just be amazing. So I think that's got to be my top goal, is to get to Olympia. And I hope that I'm on the mounted ride team on a year that they do go to Olympia. How old were you when I first joined the army? I only joined 6 weeks ago, so 18. But you only have to be 16 now to join the army. But you go, if you're younger, you go to a different place, and your basic training is much longer, and you get different qualifications, so that you would get at college or something. Do you want to do the mounted ride at Olympia? Yes, I would love to do the mounted ride. Mental and sports. There are so many sporting opportunities. If you play a sport, the army will do it. They're bigger than others, some bigger than others, but if you do it, you'll be playing that with the army if you want to, and you get a lot of time off to go on and play sport. And yeah, it's big in the army and getting bigger, so it's you go all over the world on tours, you train, you go to the biggest venues, and you play a lot with other people. And generally, depending on the sport, you'll play with your regiment, but then there are bigger teams sort of throughout the army, and then there'll be a whole of the army's teams that will go play the Navy and the RAF and things. And so sport, you can do anything with the sport. Would you encourage others to join the army? Yeah, I would. There are so many different job roles now that I would encourage anyone to join. It's tough, but you get so many opportunities, and to sort of the different job roles, you can do anything in the army now. And it's not just fighting, but there are so many non-combatant roles. So there are, on my course, there are lots of medics and things. There are also people that are going to be doing admin and payroll stuff, and chefs, so that you can do anything with the army. And it's just a great alternative to going to uni and racking up thousands of pounds a day. But I'm going to be paid to get a music degree, so you can do anything. How much contact do I have with my family? At the moment, I haven't seen them in 6 weeks. You can have your phone in the evenings, and your phone's never taken away from you, so I can call them whenever. And normally, outside of COVID, after 8 weeks, you go have a weekend at home before coming back. But at the moment, that's been cancelled because it's too much of a risk to go home and then come back. So I'll have 12 weeks without seeing my family. So not much contact. Before you get your horses, the army will change it so it's complicated. No, the riding instructors train your horse, or train all the horses, so that they're well enough behaved to be able to perform on parade without being dangerous to any of the riders. And yeah, I think if I get the opportunity to spend a couple of years as a riding instructor, it would be a lot of fun. And you can I'll be a musician, but you can take time out of being a musician to become a physical training instructor, to teach the new recruits at basic training, so that all the staff here teaching me are soldiers from all different regiments. So yeah, the riding instructor will train the horse before, and it's not part of the soldier's job to train the horse. You will ride it, and by riding it, you're also training it. Am I planning to play any other instrument? No, I'm quite happy with just playing one instrument. I've played the piano in the past, but struggled with it. And there are no other instruments that I particularly want to play. So I'm just going to stick with trumpet. What do you recommend for people to do if they join? It depends on the person. There are so many job roles that everyone can find a job in the army. And if you like the physical stuff, you can join a regiment, but then change into a different regiment that's called a physical training company, and they then are in charge of everyone's physical training while they're in the army. How many hours per day do you spend training horses? At the moment, I'm not seeing a horse, and I won't see a horse until after music school. But at riding school, you're spending the whole day either learning about riding in the classroom or riding. It's a 9 till 5 job with the horses, really. But during training, it's not just 9 to 5. You'll spend as long as you need with the horses. And then I'm based at Windsor, you can volunteer to help exercise the horses every day. So you can ride, if you want to ride more, you can ride a lot of the time, which is probably what I will do. How long do you think you'll stay in the army? So you sign up on a short contract, which is 12 years. After 4 years, you can join the reserves for 6 years. So I've got next 4 years definitely in the army, unless I drop out or get discharged while I'm training. But then you can stay a full career or drop out. And I was planning, before I came here, I was planning on doing 4 years and then going to uni as a mature student. But now I'm here, I'm sort of thinking I'll probably stay in the army for a lot longer. And obviously with the world and many jobs unstable at the moment, the army is a really stable position for me to be in, that I'm pretty much guaranteed a job for as long as I need it. So I'll probably stay in and get a few promotions and see how I enjoy it, and I'll just take it when I get to the end of my 4 years. I'll see how I'm doing. Do you think you'll enjoy riding Sky for pleasure more or less after riding so much for work? I think I'll enjoy riding Sky as much as I am at the moment. That I have such a relationship with her that I'll just get on and have a bit of fun with her. So I think it'll just be nice to be able to have a horse that I can just go and have a bit of fun with and go hacking on. Can you change by a riding instructor in the army? Yeah, so you have to join a regiment first, so the Household Cavalry or the Royal Horse Artillery, so that you're in a riding position. You can then spend, it's a 3-year contract or something, being a riding instructor, but you'd have to do courses first. And then you'd be training horses and training the 12 riders, the group of riders that come through on their 12-week course. And so yeah, that's something that I've thought about, and I think would be something really interesting to do. And they do a lot of work. It's a full-time job being a riding instructor to train all the horses, because there are so many that just need constant training. What's the attitude towards in the army? It is becoming more of a working with the horse, but obviously there's a high level of discipline in the army. So if your horse isn't doing what it's meant to be doing, you do have to just get it back in line. But it is changing more into working with the horse, which is where the riding instructors come in, to teach the horse the right behaviour before they're in the main ranks with them, where they have to be behaved. But they'll still have lots of little slip ups. That most parades there's someone falling off because the horse has got spooked. But it's sort of working with the horse. The horse is much more a part these days. Also in stables or less in stalls. So the majority are in stalls. If you have a horse that needs a stable, they'll give them a stable. It's just whatever the horse needs. And most of the horses have been in stalls for so long that they're very happy with them. And they'll get exercised every day. And they go to Melton Mowbray once a year, and they'll have a complete holiday for a couple of months. But yeah, they're mostly in stalls. How many people are you training with? So currently there are 150 or so people on my intake, but they're split down into 4 platoons. My platoon's the biggest, with 44 people I'm training with every day. That's split down again into a section of between 8 and 12. So I'm sort of, depending on what we're doing, I'm either in a group of about 44 or 12. Do you prefer hacking or schooling? I'm very lucky with the hacking that I've got, and I don't have an arena at home. I do everything in a field when I can, or out hacking. So I love hacking, and I find schooling quite boring. So I think I do prefer hacking. I have to school my horse out hacking to make up for not having an arena at home. Will you be entitled to become a Chelsea pensioner? I have absolutely no idea, Lucy. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. What type of bit do the horses wear? I can't quite remember, but I think for parades it's a special double bridle that the army use. But then they will be in the more standard ones for when they're being ridden normally. They'll have their military tack, but they'll also have civilian tack, so they're not always in very stiff saddles with sort of very shiny tack, so you don't have to keep that tidy. Will you get allocation more tricky horses to go and ride? No, it's just luck of the draw. You learn the horses' names that are tricky, and you hope that you don't get them, or if you like a hard job, you hope you get them. But it just depends. They'll treat you the same as someone that can't ride, and it's literally just given to people on a random basis. What's your favourite Olympia part of the show? I really like the show jumping phase, but I also like the displays part. That I think some years they have really, really good displays, and I've always enjoyed watching the mounted rides, whether it's the police or the army. I think that's always really good. They have grooms to help the horses. Will you be responsible? No, the soldier looks after the horse. You get allocated a horse every day to mark out. But the people in the band will do less with the horses than the cavalry that their full-time job is to ride the horses. So yeah, and then you don't get grooms. And then on parade days, 10 or so people won't be chosen on parade, and they'll be around to help get you mounted up, give your instrument to you when you're on. But it is very much the soldier does the job. How many girls are training with you? So in my platoon of 44, there are 11 girls, and that's quite high for an intake. But generally, they'll keep you with as many girls as possible, and they'll split them down so that there are enough girls to at least make a few runs. But you're not treated any differently if you're a girl to a boy. It's just all very equal now. How high do you jump? I've never sort of been competitive in going, I want to jump the biggest classes possible. So at the moment, I've had a few issues with my horse about her not wanting to jump. So I'm very happy jumping 70, 80 centimetres, just having fun. As long as she's getting over the jump, I'm happy. And I've also had a horse over the summer that was capable of jumping 130s, and I was sort of jumping 110 horses and really enjoying that. But I'll jump whatever, and I'm not fussed about jumping big or jumping competitive. I ride for the love of it. How many of the boys own cavalry men? It's quite a male-dominated thing still. That there is always going to be a high proportion of males in the army, but it's becoming more equal. The band's, I think, got about 60 in it, and it'll be about 20 to 30 girls, and then the rest boys. The boys and girls cadets have to do the same training. Yeah, everything is the same. It's the fitness testing used to be the girls would get a certain amount, the boys would get a certain amount. You'd have different standards, but now you have the same standards for a job role specific thing. So as a musician, I don't need to be as fit, so my fitness standards are much lower than the people joining as a medic, where they need to be able to be really fit. But it's no difference between girls and boys now. Do you do all types of horses? Yeah, so I event sky when I can, but I have always found the dressage phase more boring. But now that I can do more with Sky, she's becoming much more established in dressage. I'm doing more dressage, but I'll do all sorts of phases, and I don't mind what disciplines I'm doing as long as I'm on a horse. I'm happy. What are my favourite hack routes? So I'm really lucky with my hacking routes. I've got so many different options. There's one that's my favourite that goes up onto the ridgeway, and there are hunt ride jumps all the way, so there are logs all the way around that I can jump when Sky is behaving enough. And how long do I hack for? Most of my rides are at least an hour, but we have some that are much shorter. But then we can also go, I'll do 5-hour hacks with friends and things. But it's generally sort of an hour, 2 hours every day. What do I enjoy most about Pony Club? I've been really enjoying recently having dressage training. But it sort of changed throughout the years. That when I was young enough, I absolutely loved the Mounted Games team, and I really enjoyed my time at senior camp. But so if I'm not going to enjoy it, I won't do it. So everything I do at the Pony Club, I absolutely love. But it's turning more into dressage away from jumping, but I'll still enjoy going jumping. Do I ever feel uncomfortable with jumping high? Sometimes when I step up high, when I stepped onto the horse that could jump over the summer, it was a bit of adjustment to, as well as stepping up to a bigger height, I was stepping up onto a bigger horse. And I won't ever be scared of jumping high. But it just sort of, it takes me a bit of time. So I've always struggled with sort of seeing strides and things. But when I'm sort of jumped at that height for a bit, I absolutely love jumping big. But I don't ride for jumping big sort of thing. So I'll ride for whatever. How old do the under horses have to be? So they won't be really young ones because they'll be training, and obviously the young ones are going to be green. So I think there's a whole range. I think they start at 6, and they're brought up, they're broken slowly, and everything's done slowly. And then I think they go to about 15 or so before they're retired. It depends on the horse. If the horse is happy, it'll stay for longer. If it's not enjoying its job, it won't do its job because the horse just has to be happy. And they're getting much better at just sort of understanding the horse. Who is my favourite instructor in the youth? I've had some great instructors over the years. Sarah Charles has been a lot of fun. Phoebe Dowding, who I still have a lot of training with, has been fun. But there have been very few instructors that I haven't enjoyed working with. I think Fia and Sarah have always been sort of my favourite ones that I'll look out for them.
Are there any questions from anyone? I don't think I've ever seen quite such a long list of questions, Lucy. So thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. For anyone that wasn't aware, Lucy was in fact our outstanding member of the year for last year, and I think she came to see why. Absolute fantastic ambassador for the club, and it's great to see that it's led such an exciting career for you now. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well done, Lucy.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you, Alison, for having me.
Thank you for the shout out to the Mounted Games lot.
Thank you.